Welcome to Raiders on the Record, the podcast featuring Hastings High School athletics. I'm Athletic Director Trent Hansen. My colleague Tim Hanneberg and I work together to bring you the stories of Raider sports. We are thrilled to share conversations with the athletes, coaches, and alumni that represent Raider Nation. Check back weekly and be sure to share this podcast with your friends in the Raiders Network.
Katie McAlpin is a 2002 Raider graduate. For the last 20 years, she has been a staple in the Hastings High School swim programs. Katie started coaching boys and girls swimming in the fall of 2002 as an assistant and became the girls' head coach in 2003, which she has done for the last 17 years. Katie has an enormous amount of experience as a swim coach and talks about her evolution as a coach throughout the 20 years coaching span. She also goes into great detail on how to make meaningful connections in her athletes' lives and use sport like swimming to propel you into a successful future. All right, here we are with Katie McAlpin. Katie, to get a little background information on you, we ask a couple questions here right away. So this one's going to be a little easier for you. So let us know your hometown and the high school you graduated from and the year you graduated.
So I'm from Hastings here, and I graduated from Hastings in 2002. And
Wonderful.
we've, moved around a lot when I was a kid. My dad was in the military, so we were in Hawaii and California, but then we made it back here.
Yeah, that kind of segues into my next question then for you. Tell us about your family growing up. So moving around, what was that like? Maybe some of the cooler spots you went to, how long you were in certain spots for then? And then eventually, when did you get to Hastings? And once again, what did your family look like growing up? Mom, dad, brothers, sisters, any extended family here and around the area in Hastings? Like I said, around the area too. So what did it look like for you growing up?
I have a twin sister named Kelly. She has come and coached a few times. She's kind of lived all over the place. So every time she's back living in Hastings, she's come and helped out coaching. We moved back to Minnesota in 90. So like we were kindergarten, first grade-ish. And we were in Hawaii and California when we were little. Dad was stationed there. And I don't really remember California, but I do remember Hawaii. Our first Halloween here was that Halloween 91 snowstorm. And I remember my sister and I just like, we want to go back. The snow is ridiculous. So I do remember that. Like we couldn't go trick-or-treating and we couldn't do anything. And it was freezing. So that was crazy. And then mom and dad, both got remarried when we were in high school. So we, gained a little extra family. So that was cool. Pretty much it.
Nice. This is a sports podcast. So we do ask a lot of things about sports. So what do you think one of your best or your earliest sports memories is growing up? Knowing that you grew up in Hawaii for a little bit too, it could be surfing, but a lot of us are playing baseball in the backyard with a mom or dad, playing catch, or watching the Twins growing up, or watching the Vikings lose. So what do you think one of your best or your earliest sports memories was growing up?
There'd be a couple of them. One, I remember once we moved back here, we were living with my grandparents. And I remember, my dad was in the backyard with my sister. I was in the front yard with my mom, and we were kicking playground balls over the house. I have no idea why. And it was so fun. And it was just one of those things that, you're like, I don't know why we were doing that, but it was an awesome, like happy, good memory. And then also I used to ice skate before I swam. And this always makes me laugh because when I skated, my mom was a figure skater. So she always wanted one of us to skate. So it ended up being me. And my dad told me that I sucked at skating and I had to go swim with my sister. So had he not done that, I don't think I would be coaching or swimming or anything. So it worked out.
Wonderful. Yeah, that is cool. To rewind for a second too, forgot to ask you, talk about some of the elementaries you went to in town. I know some of we send these out to our elementary school teachers, so they like hearing about former students and things like that. So what elementaries, or if you just got here in middle school, what schools did you go to? And then maybe any teachers that really stuck out from those experiences as well.
So I went to McCullough for a few years, and we went to Kennedy for a couple of years. I remember In first grade, Miss Sherry always had Hershey Kisses in her classroom. She always had them. That was like her reward and treat for everybody. In third grade, Miss Holmquist used to make us line dance on Fridays. That was cool. I don't know if any of these teachers are still there. Let's see, who else? Middle school, I don't know. I loved all my math teachers. I had like every year I had a really good math teacher, which was super cool. Like Mr. Olson, my senior year. I had Mr. Olson in sixth grade, different Mr. Olson, but also for math. And Mr. Dahlberg, he was super fun. That was back when the middle school was the high school and we still had chalkboards. And it was super fun when he would pull out all the colorful chalk, because then it was like, oh, what are we doing today? And now we're using colors. So, and it's always funny too, because a lot of the teachers that I had, my parents had, because they both graduated from here as well. And I remember Mr. Gelcher, he was a math teacher in, that would have been, I think, 11th grade. And he had my parents. And I was in like an overflow accelerated class, and there was like 15 of us. And my maiden name is Rusin. So I was at the bottom of the alphabet. He's going through it. He knew exactly who I was because I looked just like my mom, and he looks down at his class sheet and he looks up at me, and I was like, oh crap. He looks down, he looks at me. I'm like, Kathy Tix and Chris Rusin. He goes, this is going to be a fun year. And I was like, oh crap. Because both my parents are like, oh, we didn't like him. I'm like, I loved him. He was great. He was an absolutely fantastic teacher. He was fun. He gave like extra credit for stupid human tricks. So because I could wiggle my nose and my ears and curl my tongue, I got extra credit. And yeah, he was great. That's one of my favorite teachers.
Oh, that's super cool. Next one then for you, Katie. A lot of the guys that were on here, their first job growing up, many of them was detasseling corn or baling hail. I don't know if that was one of your first jobs, but what was your first job growing up here?
That was luckily something I never had to do. I started teaching swimming lessons for Haste, our club team here. I don't remember, maybe 13-ish. And then I remember my first, like, what I guess would consider a real job, because swimming lessons was always just fun and something to do and to give back to the sport that you're participating in. But I worked up in the greenhouses at Gertens. My aunt worked up there. So we would go up there at Christmas time and in the spring and just help basically, wrap poinsettias and do all of that kind of stuff. And it was fun. It was a cool place to be.
Sweet. Last one then for you on the background info. You could pick any of these categories. If you want to pick 3 of each, that's fine. Or if you want to pick 3 different categories, that's fine with me too. Whatever you choose to do. So what do you think your favorite movie is, your favorite food, your favorite artist, your favorite author, or your favorite time of the year?
Ooh, that one's a hard one. Favorite food, Reese's peanut butter cup eggs. They're fantastic. I actually get them in the spring and hide them in the house. So then we find them all year long. It's great. And then I remember one year Jerry had a bunch in his office drawer and I was like, oh, you should give me some of those. So when it was like the middle of the summer or something, it was awesome. Favorite time of the year has to be summer, just being sunshine and warm. I don't do winter very well. I like my water melted, not frozen. So yeah, and then like in the summer we get to travel and go different places with our family, and we've been able to bring the kids to 43 different states in their lifetimes. And wow. The youngest one is 6, and so it's been cool. So summer is great because it's warm and we can go everywhere and not have to worry about weather or anything like that.
For sure. Nice. That's awesome. Get into you now currently. Describe your current role at Hastings High School. What do you do? Where do you work outside of the school? What do you coach? What sports do you coach? Talk about all that good stuff with you.
So I'm the head coach for the girls swim team. This is my 20th year coaching. If you count the year that I volunteered, my very first year coaching, I volunteered for the boys season. And then I was brought on staff as an assistant coach the following year for girls and boys, and just kind of kept going from there. I have coached lacrosse for a couple of years. That was super fun. It was such a different experience because their heads aren't underwater. Like you can have like totally different interactions with the kids when, they can actually like see and talk to you and not holding your breath. So that was super fun just to have just a different perspective of coaching. I work at the Y here in town. I teach water X classes to the Forever Well people, and it's super fun. We do Disco Fridays. I make them dance and do water aerobics. It's super fun. For Halloween, we're doing a very fun routine. So I got them all excited for that. I also teach swimming lessons at the Y, some private lessons, and then whenever they absolutely need me to get in and jump in and teach some classes, I do that as well.
Nice. So 20 years coaching. Can you give a little breakdown of, since you said you're the head girls coach and you're the assistant boys coach, how long have you been the head girls coach? And then has it been 20 years total with each, or just give the kind of breakdown of how long you've been with each of the two sports?
So my volunteer year was with boys back in, it would have been fall of 2002. So, and then the following year I came on as the girls assistant and boys assistant for 3 years. Yes, 3 years. And then I got hired on as the girls head coach for that 4th year. And it was one of the most memorable interviews I think I've ever had in my life. And I walked into this huge like conference room at the high school, and sitting in there was Tom Johnson, who had known me already for a long time because I'd assistant coach for a few years, and then just being the athletic director at the high school. And then Jerry Rupp, who I had coached with and swam for, and Kim Olson, who I also swam for many years. And I walked in there and it's like, they're all like, "Hi, how are you?" And I looked at him, I said, "I don't know that there's any question that you guys could ask me that you don't already know." So it was just, and it was cool. It ended up being like an awesome, just sit down, and we had chatted about everything. But going into it, I was like a little bit scared because I'm like, these are all like, you know, my role models, but also now becoming my peers. And it was just like that transition into like being a big kid was different. So, but it was super fun.
Yeah, it's easier sometimes when you don't know the people, you know, when they
Yes,
all know you, then and you're kind of on the spot there. So yeah.
Exactly. So I got the head coaching position. And so I think this is my 17th year head coaching for girls. And then for boys, that year, Jerry came in as the boys head coach and I was his assistant, just because, you know, we weren't sure kind of like how much Jerry could put into it with working full time. And we made it work. We have a good balance, and we've had that good balance for many, many years now. So he's the boys head coach. I'm the assistant, and then he's my assistant for girls. So we're able to back each other up in a lot of different ways. He does mornings because I hate morning, and I do the afternoons. And so it's great. It works out perfect.
That's wonderful. So I know this next one sounds very familiar. Trent, our AD, loves to hammer us coaches with this one. So why do you think you coach? What kind of character skills you bring to swimming, to girls lacrosse? What do you try to kind of impose on these girls and these boys on a daily basis? And once again, so why do you coach here?
I think, well, I continued with it. At first, I literally did it because I wanted to keep connected with swimming. It was my one thing that I was passionate about growing up, and then just to be able to hold on to that. You know, my original plan in life was to go up to UND to go to college, and I found out I was pregnant with my oldest son 6 days before I left for college. So life changed in a big way real quick. So I stayed here, and you know, since I didn't get to swim in college and do that, you know, I chose to stay here and figure out what life was going to look like. Being able to hold on to that swimming environment and everything about it was super awesome. Just to be able to like walk on the pool deck and be like, okay, there's still a part of home here. Like life still makes sense. There's still something consistent here. And then just fell in love with it and continued on. And it has just become a part of me. So, and it's funny because Dylan, my oldest, has grown up on the pool deck. You know, when he was a baby, we would stack up kickboards and he would lay in the middle, you know, and then he starts crawling and he had to get put in a stroller, and because he was with me all the time. So we even had to bring him to sections once when he was 2 because I had nobody to watch him. So
oh my God,
he's been on the pool deck his whole life. So just being able to like throw my kids into that too, and all my kids swim, which is great. It's been fun. Like there was one year the girls put Jack, my middle son, in a giant like Rubbermaid tub bucket and then put him in the pool. And since he didn't weigh much, he floated. So they were like pushing him around the pool, and it was, yeah. So just being able to hang on to swimming and pull my family into it and just, make that my world has been absolutely awesome.
I know we might get there eventually, but maybe it is one of the most rewarding things about coaching too, or maybe your favorite thing. But your son Dylan is now coaching with you too. So maybe talk a little bit about that, getting him. I mean, you're talking about him growing up on the pool deck, and you started coaching the girls 20 years ago, and that's when Dylan was born too. And now you're coaching side by side with him. So talk about how cool that is and how unique that is as well for you.
It has been really awesome having him there. So he was our manager for most of his life. He couldn't officially be a manager until he was in 7th grade, but he just kind of was unofficially. So he knows, like, he can walk on the pool deck and know exactly what I want done, how I want it done, and when I want it done, which is great because, he can walk in there now as an assistant coach or volunteer coach, technically, and just know what to do. So there's not like a ton of like coaching that I need to do for him, like completely when it comes to like the organizational side of it. So, but it's been cool the last few weeks to be able to teach him, how to coach kids through sets, because if you're looking at it from a different perspective, he swam, so you're in the water, and then now you're out of the water coaching somebody from a different level. So just, the other day we were talking about, okay, this is what they're going to be doing. Here's where you need to go with this. And when they get to this part, here's what you need to throw at them and remind them of this. And so just being able to coach him through that has been super fun. It's a little bit hard because he's still really young, and I totally understand where he's at because I started coaching so young as well, that you went to school with and swam with the kids that are on the team. So being able to like separate yourself from that takes a few years to be able to do that. So it's, teaching him that kind of stuff is going to take some time, and that he needs to keep that distance and separation. But it's hard because they're your friends and people that you get along really well with.
For sure. It is, yeah, that is a super tricky thing. So think about this now. You started coaching 20 years ago. You go back in a time machine. What is one thing now as kind of a more mature, older coach, and that you didn't know when you were young, and you kind of maybe wish you did it then, or maybe it was a learning lesson throughout your whole career, and you're kind of glad you had those experiences because it brought you to where you are now. So what is one thing, if you could go back those first couple years, 20 years ago when you first started coaching, what is one thing you might have known, you wish you knew, or you did a little bit differently?
One of the things that I think would have been super beneficial to know in the beginning was just how to not deal with parents, but how to like communicate and get on the same level with parents. My first couple of years were really, really hard and very trying with a lot of the parents because I was young, and parents are very passionate. They want what's best for their kid, which is totally understandable. I get that as a parent now, but just being able to stand my ground, confidently stand my ground with parents, and just know that, tell them this is how it's going to be because this is how our team rules run and things like that. So now I can, confidently get up in front of all of our parents and run a 2-hour parent meeting and have fun with it and be confident with it and able to get my message to them correctly and to stay on that same level. My 3rd year head coaching, I was ready to walk away. Like it put me, like I was just ready to go. I'm like, I can't deal with the parents. It's pushing me over the edge. And there was a woman named Barb who used to coach Roseville boys and Forest Lake girls. And she passed away quite a few years ago, but she stood on the pool deck with me at state meet that year. And I was like, she's like, how's it going? I said, I can't do this. She goes, get through 3 years. She goes, once you get past your 3rd year head coaching, it gets so much easier. And she was so right. She was so right. And I think it's because you cycle through all those kids that you had in the beginning, and now you're in your groove and you're used to doing things. You've kind of set your pathway out to how you're going to do stuff. And you're able to like stick to that a little bit better because of that.
What about, so you talked about working with parents. You talked about communication as well. It's something you've worked on for the last 20 years as well. Any other tips or tricks or techniques you found have worked, you kind of slowly developed over the last 20 years that have really helped you become a better coach with swimming?
I think just, I've done a lot of coaching classes and, read a few different books and just kind of like a lot of reflections. I think our meetings with Trent, so we do preseason and postseason meetings with Trent, our athletic director. And I think those are extremely helpful to be able to, have a plan and be organized. And, because he'll ask us, what's your intention with this? How are you going to do this? How are you going to do this? And then at the end of the season, we go back through all that same stuff. And he's like, well, how did this go? Did it work? Did it not work? How are we going to change it in the future? So just really making us reflect on everything that we're doing and be super purposeful in what we do and how we do it. So that has been awesome, I think, because it's really easy to just jump in there and go through the motions and not really have a plan and always do things the way you always have. And that's not necessarily always the best way. So, and I've started doing kind of like check-ins with the girls. I try to check in with everybody on the team at least twice throughout the season on a personal level, just sit down and, we do goal sheets in the beginning of the year. And then this year I tried something a little bit different a couple weeks ago. And so far it's gone really well. I had them write some answers to, like, if I were interviewing them, saying, hey, I'm interviewing you, the season's over. What are things that you would like to say that you accomplished? And then like sit down with them with that piece of paper and be like, okay, here's where we're at in accomplishing those things. What do we still need to do to get there? And just being able to like connect with them personally is so awesome. And I feel like you grow as a team by being able to connect like that, and just they trust you more, which is huge. And you just kind of get them to trust the process of things as well. Things aren't going to come super easy every single time. So it's been fun, just kind of incorporating little things like that throughout the years and learning what works and what doesn't work.
I know I'm going a little off script, but that was going to be kind of my next question for you then, with what you're talking about here. When it comes to swimming, you kind of said it before too, way different than lacrosse. I mean, you're at swimming practice and these girls and boys are going the whole time, so how do you connect with them? When you're at practice, there isn't probably too much downtime, or the kids are out of the pool or different things like that. They're moving and you want to maximize that time. So how do you create those relationships with a sport like swimming, which once again, different than lacrosse, where you're probably doing drills and there's some downtime and there's kids on the sideline and you could kind of connect at different times with them too. So what do you think is an easy way or a good way that you found to connect with the kids on the swim team?
So doing those check-ins has been awesome. And that's one thing that Trent and I have talked a lot about too. Like, what does that look like? You come in and they're all coming in and they're getting ready to go. We jump, we do a quick little team meeting at the beginning. We do our dry land and then we get in the water because we only have so much water time and we want to try to maximize that as best we can. So like between sets, they all kind of finish sets at a different time sometimes. So we kind of chit chat between sets with each other. And dry land, we kind of get to have a little bit more fun with them and like joke about things and try to, see kind of what their personalities are like, because when their heads are underwater, obviously they can't talk, but they do make these really cool headphone things that they can put in their ears and I can have on my head where I can talk to them while they're swimming, like race car driver things.
That is awesome. I didn't know this was a thing.
I didn't know it was a thing either until a couple of years ago when I was like, wouldn't it be cool if we could do this? But that would only be a one-way conversation. It would probably drive them crazy. They would just say it doesn't work and ignore me. But yeah, so just, every chance that we get, and we do team outings, which is super fun. Last week, we took all the girls to a corn maze and had dinner and then went and did a Halloween thing. So we do a lot of team dinners the night before meets, and we just try to find different things. We do a picnic. We get summer days, which is awesome because we start in August. So we usually have 3 weeks of practice before school even starts. So we schedule 3 afternoons in those 3 weeks where we get 3 hours to go have fun and just do something that's like team building, but fun at the same time. So this year we did a scavenger hunt downtown, which was super funny to kind of watch them. I created a scavenger hunt for them to like find all these letters, and then they had to figure out where they had to go at the end. And just watching their brains think through all of this was super fun, because I just walked up and down 2nd Street, checking on them and everything. And then we went tubing this year, which was like so fun. We've been trying for years to go tubing, and it's been bad weather every time. So it was super fun to just watch them interact with each other, kind of even just like stepping back, and then every time we like pair them up, I always tell them, you can't pair up with somebody in your lane or your grade, so it's been cool to do that too. And I've been throwing some weird questions at them. Like one of them I gave them was, if you had a boat, what would you name it and why? So I break them up into groups, and then they have to come up with the best one, so then they share with me, and they're always like, well, Katie, what would yours be? So like, it's just fun to kind of like do that kind of stuff to get to know them. And that usually sparks a conversation way out in left field anyway, because it does. It's fun.
Sweet. Next one too, once again, going off script. So sorry about that.
That's okay.
What do you think the difference is between coaching boys and girls? Is there a big difference? Is swimming the same for everybody? Or what are you seeing with that?
It is a huge difference. I think girls takes a lot more like brain power. I think I'd like to say emotion, but that's totally not accurate. I'm one of those like coaches who's on the sidelines bawling when they do like good stuff. It's like when they get their, lifetime best time, or they have a huge accomplishment, I'm like tearing up on the sidelines with happy tears. One year, the boys even brought me a box of Kleenex to sections because they thought it was funny. But the boys, they just react to you different, and Jerry and I have talked about this too. For the girls, it's more like, it's like parenting, it's like you have mom and dad. How do they react to them? Like the boys listen to me so much better than the girls do. But I think the girls listen to Jerry so much better than they listen to me. So it's just, it's different, their mentalities are different. And like the things that they focus on, I feel like is a lot different too. And kind of like what's important to them, because boys they generally don't care. You bring them in there and you say, go do 35 push-ups and do this and that and whatever. And they just go do it. The girls, well, why are we doing this? It's always asking why. So I've gotten really good at explaining myself. But yeah, so it's just like how they interact with us too, I think is really different. And then to the girls is just, it's a lot, well, like I said, a lot more wise. So it's a lot more time and explaining, and just, I feel like you need to connect with the girls more than the boys too. They just need that connection a little bit more. And the boys are fun because it's 7th through 12th graders for boys. So you've got these little tiny kids, and you've got like these almost men seniors that you're putting together, and they're great. It's like having a whole bunch of little brothers on your team, and they take care of each other, and just like, and watching them, is super fun. And like the little 7th graders are super quiet because they're just not sure yet. And then, they get older, and by 9th grade, they kind of start opening up a little bit, and they're funny. They're super, super funny. So just a lot more emotion with the girls, and questions of why. But other than that, I think it's, the boys are more laid back. I guess that would be the easiest way to sum it up. So I'm glad that the girls are first and then the boys season. If it was the other way, I don't know that it would go as well.
Oh, good. Yeah. No, that's awesome. So we talked about you coaching with your son, and maybe this is going to be the answer for this question, but what do you think the best or the most rewarding thing has been about coaching? And it could be about coaching swimming. It could be coaching lacrosse. It could be coaching just at Hastings. So what do you think your best or your most rewarding thing has been associated with coaching?
I think just being able to like make an impact on them, and just one of the things that I love is a lot of the kids say thank you when they leave the pool. And that is just like a tiny little, gratitude that just kind of warms your heart every time they do that, because they don't have to, so that just, they seem like they really want to be there, and they enjoyed doing what they did that day, or they had fun, and being able to impact their lives in more than just the water. We do our character lessons each week. We talk about that kind of stuff. We talk about school, like how's school going, and just kind of helping them navigate through things that they might be struggling with, and just giving them those things like, hey, this is only a short part of your life. Like, enjoy what you have right now, do what you can, try new things, and just enjoy it, because it's only 4 years.
For sure.
So it's fun to watch them grow.
Yeah. No, that what you're saying there too is one of the ones I struggle with as a coach too, that enjoying the 4 years as an athlete. The one I hear all the time is, I got to go make money. I got to get a job. It's just like, man, sometimes as we talked about earlier, what you know now as a mature coach, what you didn't know back then. I feel it's the same way with these kids, what you know now as an adult versus what the kids know. And those jobs and the job and money, that stuff can just wait for 4 years, and he's got to maximize his time. It's just so hard to get that point across sometimes to these high school kids. So
yeah, we do a lot of like, one thing I always tell the girls, so there's 3 reasons to miss practice or a meet: school, religion, and family. Those are your 3 things, and if grandma's coming to town and you see grandma once a year and you're going out for dinner with grandma, you're not coming to practice. You're going out for dinner with grandma because that's important. That's your family. That's, you need to be there and present for that. If grandma's coming to town every Friday afternoon, that's a different story. But just being able to let them know that it doesn't need to consume you. Like, the sport is just a part of your life. It's not your entire life.
Mm-hmm.
So, and some of them, I think, just kind of, they get get stuck in, swimming is all I can do. It's the only thing I'm going to do year round. And it just, then by halfway through high school, they're burned out and don't want to do it anymore. Mm-hmm. So just kind of keeping it fun and making sure that they know that there's a big world out there, and it's not just contained inside our little pool.
For sure. Another question for you, Katie, and this is one that Trent always hits us with all the time. I know in interviews or preseason, postseason meetings. So he always asks us to define success. So how do you define success, and what does it mean to you?
I think just seeing the kids be able to grow throughout the years that they're there, being able to walk away as a senior feeling good about what they did in those 4 to 6 years. Like at senior night, we always give them a sheet that they have to fill out. What was your favorite memory, your plans for next year, and your advice to the team. And their favorite memory is never winning a meet or anything else. It's always like a bus ride or something silly that happened. Like, they remember that. Their advice is always, it goes fast, things like that. So it's being able to see them like take in everything that we're giving them and applying it to their lives as best they can, and just making an impact on them is awesomely rewarding, and to be able to achieve our goals throughout the season. So every fall, in the beginning of the year, we talk about, what's your personal goal, what's your team goal, and what's your school goal. I make them pick one for each, and then tell me how you're going to accomplish that. So being able to accomplish those goals, I think, is huge. And it's not necessarily just in the water. We've got kids that come out for a sport for every different reason. We've got some who are there to be a part of something, some who are there because they don't know how to do anything else, some that are there because they want to get faster. They all have different reasons to be there. So being able to like fuel and give them what they need and why they want to be there is a super huge success to me.
For sure. So you talked about your interview for this girls swim job, and every single person in there was someone that you looked up to, knew what swimming, grew up with. So looking, maybe they were at that table, maybe they weren't at that table. So who do you think is a coach you admire, someone you look up to? They taught you something that really stuck with you. They made an awesome connection with you, something that really lasts a lifetime. Who do you think that coach was for you growing up?
Oh, there's a bunch of them. I feel like I can't necessarily like stick it to one person. Kim was huge. Kim Olson, she's our club coach. I definitely would not be where I am without her. She, taught us how to be on time. She taught us how to be committed. She was a little harsh. Well, not really harsh, but like strong, compassionate, and, put everything into this is what we need to do, and all of that. And for some people it's super intimidating, and I'd be lying if I said she didn't scare me a little. But she taught us, how to be on time, how to show up, how to like really care about what we were doing. And then Jerry was my coach through high school, and Jerry and I didn't always see eye to eye in high school, which is funny because now he's one of my best friends, but back then we weren't really best friends. But he really taught us how to like come together as a team. And, one person can't win a swim meet. It takes everybody coming together in order to make this happen. So that was a super cool thing that, I took from him. And one thing, like, I know one of your questions on here was, who do you admire? And one thing that I came up with, and it's super silly, but I'll never forget it. There used to be a coach for Woodbury. His name was Jerry Simpson. And I remember going up to state meet one time, like in my very early coaching years. And his girls had made these hot pink state meet shirts. And they wanted him to wear one. And sure enough, he showed up the next day on the pool deck with that hot pink shirt on. And I don't know why that stuck with me, but just like him not caring, like he's going to do this because that's what he wants, or that's what, they want him to do to be a part of the team and to like lift them up. And it was super cool that he's like, sure, jump in, let's wear the pink shirt, and back then it just, coaches always wore the polos and, everything was so much more professional looking, but it was just super awesome that he came out there in that pink shirt.
That's great. So we talked about you, swimming for Jerry Rupp, Dr. Jerry Rupp, and then now you're coaching with him. So maybe that's someone you want to use for this question, or we already talked about you coaching with your son Dylan as well, and maybe it's someone else that you coach with throughout your last 20 years, or maybe the summertime too, and all the private lessons and everything you've done with swimming as well. But who do you think an assistant coach that you've worked with, or a colleague, once again, someone that you really looked up to, admired, they had a huge influence on you, who do you think that person was over the last 20 or so years?
Definitely Jerry. Definitely. He, is one of my best friends. He's my sidekick at the pool. We can have disagreements and get through them. And, he's a great sounding board for everything. When we write section lineups and it's going to be a hard one, we go out for cheese dip and we write our section lineup. It's like, it's a tradition at this point, just to be able to like, okay, what about this? What if we do this? And just having that person who, can think outside the box too. And, for like relays this year, we're like, we have so many options that we can do and different ways to do it, so, and just too, being able to bounce things back and forth. So one of our meets, I think it was Farmington, we each wrote a lineup, like trying to see like, what's our strongest lineup. Mm-hmm. And putting it together, there was literally 4 differences in the entire lineup. That was it, which out of 12 events and 3 people in every event and 3 relays, like to only have 4 differences was awesome. Like, so we think a lot alike, and that's super fun, but also, he can jump in and catch the things that I might miss. Back in the beginning as a younger coach too, I was still learning how things worked, and being able to walk on to the pool deck at state meet with him there was like a security blanket, because everybody knew who he was. He went to school at the U. He wears this yellow sweater on the first day of state meet, always from the U, and just being able to have that person be able to, introduce you like, hey, this is Katie, she's our coach, and things like that. And just have that support has been awesome, and just have somebody that, might catch something that I miss, my first year head coaching at sections, we were so excited about the swim at the breaststroke. One of our girls just had a phenomenal swim, and we were just on the side of the pool talking about it afterwards. And the 400 free relay was called to the block, and our relay was not down there because we were celebrating the breaststroke, So all of a sudden the official turns and knew Jerry and goes, Jerry, do you have a relay coming? And we're like, oh crap. And the girls go running down there, So it's like, had Jerry not had that connection with that official, we might have missed the relay. And then we went and brought that relay to state. So just, having him as, somebody there to be able to back me up in any situation that I get myself stuck in is absolutely fantastic.
Oh, that's wonderful. What about an opponent that you guys always like swimming against? I know for the boys, Jerry talked about St. Thomas is a huge opponent for the boys, and we beat them. It's hard to remember. We beat them or we tied them last year for the first time in a huge amount of years, right?
Yeah, we tied them for the conference title.
Okay.
So we beat them and then they beat Simley and Simley beat us. So it was a three-way conference title, but we had never beat them as far as I know. So yeah, it was pretty awesome.
So it might be St. Thomas for the boys, but what about the girls? Like I said, an opponent or maybe a meet that you always look forward to going to. It could be the state meet, which is always a lot of fun for all sports, but that opponent that really brings the best out of you. You always look forward to playing it. You circle on the calendar every single year, and you know it's always going to be a good one. So, who do you think that is for girls swimming?
I would say probably Farmington. They aren't in our conference, so it's a non-conference meet, and it's always fun. Their team for the last few years has been such a close matchup for us, and it often comes down to the last relay. And usually, and it's so dual meets and section scoring is a little bit different. So if I go back and look, most of the years that if we beat them in a dual meet, they beat us at sections. If they beat us in a dual meet, then we beat them at sections. And it's always been kind of this bounce back and forth. And their coach, Jen, is super fun. She's got a lot of energy and she has a lot of fun with her girls too. She is an amazing coach. So being able to get on the pool deck and have fun with her is awesome. We went down to their pool one time and it was a year, if I remember correctly, that we were getting our butts handed to us. And she walked over and she goes, all right, last relay, let's do 100 IM. Because for freestyle, you can do whatever stroke you want. It doesn't matter. Like you can swim upside down and sideways as long as you don't push off the bottom and you touch every wall. It doesn't really matter. So all the girls did 100 IM instead of 100 freestyle. And they were so excited. I'm like, it's such a small thing, but being able to have all of their relays and all of our relays come together and swim these 100 IMs. And it was a blast. Like I said, we got our butts kicked, but it was so fun. And we've always kind of just made it really fun with them. And it's always been, not a, trash talk, oh, Farmington, this and that. It's always like, we get to swim against Farmington. It's going to be really fun. So,
that's great.
It's great.
You might have already answered this next one, but if you want to expand on it, that's great. If you want to use something completely different, that's okay too. So, what do you think one of your favorite moments or experiences has been as a high school coach?
That one was really hard. Bringing Ashton and Ava to state meet a couple years ago was super fun. Ashton was a 7th grader. Ava was an 8th grader. They were young and just, watching their eyes get really big when they walked onto the pool deck. And, we're like, you guys are middle schoolers. It doesn't matter how you do. Let's just go soak this up. So it was super rewarding to get to see them, be there and have fun and just really soak it all in. And it's other than that, it's super hard to pick one. There's been so many. Like I said, I'm that, proud mama bear on the sidelines bawling when somebody wins something. So, and it's funny because Jerry will stop and look over at me I'm guessing to see if I'm crying yet, So I'm like, I've never been an emotional person, but the older I get, the worse it gets. It's just, even just talking to them, talking to the girls about being proud of them for something, it's like you get teary eyed, like it's your own kids and you just kind of adopt these 24 extra kids.
Oh, that's great.
It's awesome.
Last couple questions then for you, Katie. So you've been coaching for over 20 years. You talked about a little bit ago in the podcast, you talked about working with parents in those first couple years that were extremely difficult and you got through that 3-year stretch and things kind of started clicking after that. So from these experiences, from your perspective, if you could give parents and coaches 2 pieces of advice, what do you think they would be and why?
So for parents, I would say, know where your kid is at, know why they want to be on the team and a part of the team. If you have a JV swimmer who's just there to have fun and be a part of something, but mom and dad are like, oh, they're going to be the next Michael Phelps, it's like, come down to reality and know that, statistically, Trent tells us all the time, 1% of kids goes off and swims or participates in a college sport. So looking at that, it's like, know that this is the time that they have to be a part of this team. So know why they're there so that you can support their why, and be able to be like, did you have fun today? And if they're there to make it to state, okay, what did you do today to make it to state meet or one step closer? Just being able to like have that interaction with them, not as a coach, but just as like the greatest cheerleader ever, and being able to support them too. So, yeah.
Oh, that's perfect. Same kind of question now, student athletes. You've worked with so many different girls over the last 20 years, boys as well, girls across. You've had countless girls and boys come through the pool. If you could give them 2 pieces of advice, what do you think they would be and why?
So one thing that, I always tell the girls every single year, my biggest regret from when I was a kid was not trying new things. All I did was swim. I didn't do anything else. I did no other club, no other sport, no other anything, no music, nothing, like try different things. Swimming doesn't have to be your whole life. We have girls who are in show choir and they balance their time great. Go do it. Okay, you're going to miss show choir this day, but you're going to go this day. And, just find that balance. Like, we will make it work. We want you to be able to experience everything that you have in front of you. Be dedicated. You can't just, take off because you put yourself in 35 different activities, but, be dedicated, but have that communication to just go and experience the world around you. You only get to be in high school for 4 years. Just soak up every bit of it that you can. Yeah, I don't know. That's what I got.
That's perfect. No, that's a great way to kind of wrap it up. Last thing then, the mic is yours. Anything else you want to add? Anything I forgot to ask you? Like I said, anything else you want to talk about, you could go for it, Katie.
I guess the only couple of things I had, one thing my sister and I were talking earlier today about some of this stuff and like advice and what you would say and like what would you tell like the girls as a whole, and kind of summing up things that we talk about over the last 20 years. We came up with failure is not always a bad thing. Use it and help you get into those future successes. I always tell the girls that everything you do has consequences, and people think of consequences as negative things. So that's not necessarily true. You never know what's going to happen until you try it. You can know that there's going to be an outcome, whatever you choose to do. If you choose to do something you shouldn't be doing, there's going to be an outcome. If you choose to dedicate yourself to working on this and doing this or getting into a habit or a routine, it's going to pay off for you. So yeah, just, sticking to what you want to do and making sure that you are putting everything into it. And that even if you end up taking a step back, that step back is going to teach you how to move forward. And then I have a poster on my office wall that says, everywhere you go in life, leave your mark. It's one of my favorite things.
Wow, that's great. Katie, I really appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.